Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Byzantian Brewscast with your host Kerry Jeksak and Byzantian Dev. How are we doing today, my
Hello.
good friend?
I've I have slept well this afternoon because I had a very early very early running event which had to be there for 7:30 for.
Hmm.
It went on till about 12:30. So
Oh.
I slept I've been sleeping pretty well afterwards.
Hmm.
Worth doing, but it was a long morning.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Wasn't doing the running, but it's just helping the event all day. Um,
Hmm.
Fun stuff though. Just put just post a quick photo. Uh, just thing on the thing. As with this, so the group's called Run Through. They put on like events all over the UK.
Uh-huh.
So some it's Midlands, sometimes it's here, there, and everywhere. But they put on like running events every week, and need obviously volunteers to staff it. They do everything from 5K to like junior events to 10K. So it's
Hmm.
as if you want to get into running, it's something really to get involved with. Or if you just want to volunteer, that's good. Um, Yeah, I did bump into some, I guess you'd call him a local celebrity, I guess.
Oh.
Um, because keep in mind it's in charity terms, so it's like it's basically there's a guy called Daniel, and he's kind of like low key famous in the charity circuits because what he does is he does half marathons while dressed as Spider-Man, which I think is he's done this for years. Keep in mind, and he's done periods of like where he's barely taken a month off doing them.
Hmm.
He's like putting himself through. Like he mentioned, like every month, every second week, he'd do a half marathon,
Nice.
all for the same charity as well. So he's just the trooper about it. Well, he did this one, and I was all suited up volunteering. So got chatting about that. It's quite fun.
Cool.
Um, we got a few good photos of it, and there's another guy as well who he he's running for charity, and he. So I don't know how to manage this, but he's done like as of today 125 half marathons for the charity of his cause in like
Hey.
a year.
Awesome.
So that's just insane to me. But yeah, some like some people go for it. It's kind of impressive.
Hmm.
So yeah, that was a long morning. But wouldn't mind doing another one of those. I think the next one's in Solihull, like a few months from now. So thankfully, I got some time off and less early starts, or at least early starts. Thank God for a bit.
Yeah. So my week has been relatively uneventful. I've just been taking a breather, to be honest, because last week was quite
Fair enough.
hectic. I got some more art done though. That was kind of my main thing for last week. But I guess I'm going to announce sort of ahead of time that we won't be doing a podcast next week, most likely, because I'm in Wales next week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I will be, for anyone interested, I will be filming at Pending Sands Hot Rod event. For anyone who's into car culture stuff and wants to say hi, I'll be there. I'm not
Okay.
sure what
So
the crossover is between tabletop stuff and car folks, but maybe there's a few of you out there that are like, oh, yes, I will not be here next weekend, so stay tuned a couple weeks from now for on the next episode front. Just jumping the gun a bit. I'm just saying, like, yeah, I'm taking a breather for the most of this week and this week coming because of that.
that's fair. Uh, is that the Saturday?
So it'll be I'm there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'm there the whole weekend.
Yeah, fair enough. Um, oh yeah, I
So,
forgot. Yes, carry on. Carry on. Sorry.
um, So, tabletop book club this week. We'll get into this a little early. But what book do we have this week?
Right. This one, my one's just a little interesting because it's a book I'm looking to looking to buy because I just saw a YouTube video about it and I was just
Ooh.
kind of
Mm-hmm.
I was convinced just off the pitch. So it's not. This is a pure setting book,
Uh-huh.
and it's an art book called Vermis. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's who's it by Hollow Press Games. It's an art book that's presented like an official rule book, inspired by a lot of like the more grim, the dark fantasy and dystopian aspects of like old school dungeon crawling.
Mm-hmm.
It's set in a world where there is like it's like a of a knightly kind of main character, like kind of idealized main character in this weird world where everything is weirdly faith based or trying to preserve something that's practically dead already. So it's all very classic dark fantasy, which just up my alley. But it's not just like a little bit; it goes all in on
Interesting.
just how grim it actually is, but without being depressing. It's just kind of interestingly weird. Um, like it's a setting of for instance, they have goblins, but they're not just funny little green men. They're like they are funny. They are kind of funny looking and green, but
So, so I was in this cave,
they were
right?
so,
And
they, so
there was a funny little goblin fella.
yeah. Yeah. So they are green and pointy eared and all stuff. That they kept
Uh-huh.
that the same, but the way they wrote it up was they it's a book of effectively just world building bits
Right.
that's really interesting and proper classic dark fantasy. So the whole thing with them was there were like two two goblin queens, one of which was like weirdly not uncharacteristically attractive looking, the other and loved, and the other one was more traditionally goblin-y. Um, and basically their kingdom was going all right until the one of the queens died of a disease, and since then the goblins have sort of like revered her as a weird saint.
Ooh.
So rather than like go on some expand and be nuisances in dungeons and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
they're kind of sad creatures. They just sort of like they sort of protect which whatever goblins are survive after the kingdom has fallen into ruin.
Hmm.
Sort of um live out in like the catacombs where the old queen is buried, and they're absolutely petrified of all other living creatures because they're just that much bigger than them. So it does a really good job of like sympathizing goblins in a way, which is I haven't really seen done properly before. It also
Mm-hmm.
does like really interesting ideas like the flute forest or the flute wood trees, which is so basically it's uh, a strange forest um where sort of swamp dwelling tribes sort of live. But the name comes from the trees themselves that have like loads of holes in their trunks.
Yeah.
Um, so when the wind blows through it, it's really confusing to listen to because all you hear is just the sound of the wind whistling through the holes in the trees, so you can't quite make out where stuff's actually coming from.
Oh.
Uh, the whole book is just full of weird little cool ideas like that.
Yeah. That's good. I like books that have lots of little ideas rather than just.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's totally just it's a self-described art book written like it's an official rule book,
Mm.
and it's like every distinct art piece is written up as if it's a page from uh, a comprehensive rule book. So you won't have any stat blocks or anything in here,
Mm-hmm.
but you'll see like an idea that he's drawn up and contextualized it as if it was a real thing. Like something he read it called the Stench Champion. That is, he hadn't put stats to it, but he described it like he would do in a stat block. It's like
Hmm.
some bizarre amalgamation of skeleton bits and corpse parts.
Hmm. Oh, I like that.
It's done that very, yeah, very OGL, I guess now style of where everything where it's very traditional European style,
Hmm.
but clearly it's kind of like a dark age, a very dark age heavy vibe, and I saw it going for 15 quid, which to me is a bit of a steal. And
Yeah.
there are two books, so I'll be looking to get both of those. I think. Yeah, so that's Vermi. So there's a sort of really good video on it, and I was just kind of hooked from there, to be honest.
Hmm. It's cool because like it means that it's setting agnostic ideas, so you could apply that
Oh
to
God, yeah, yeah.
Pathfinder, you apply it to 5e, you could apply it to Call of Cthulhu, to Fate, any system. You go, okay, these guys could fit in this system because I'm not tied to any particular rule set, so to speak.
Check it out.
Um, so what I have is the other half, effectively, of last week's book. I say the other half, so it's the other side of things, which is the Tales of the Honk Apocalypse. So this is the fifth edition, one shot adventure that One Honk Before Midnight is sort of the other side of, where you play as the players as a party trying to stop effectively the Goose Hydra, called the Feathered One. So it's
The
like
feathered one.
yeah, you have to collect evidence. You fight what is basically three geese in a trench coat. There's that encounter. Um, the picture of the three geese in a trench coat is the best thing, because one of them is just like poking way too much out of the bottom of the trench coat. It's like I don't think you guys have quite understood this idea. They've got quackalites, which are like slight like challenge quarter creatures, which are a bit sort of so they're a bit more power. They're kind of basically like dire geese. Basically, imagine them being dire geese.
Fire geese.
Um, we've got a character here called Sir Cletus who rides a pig. Yeah, yeah. If you're imagining a redneck with a bucket on his head, you've got the right idea. I'm a knight of the Order of Farmers. Kind of. Oh, the pig's name is Paul, of course.
Oh, yeah, alliteration's good.
They have a whole like randomized section for a chase encounter. So you roll for like
Brilliant.
various obstacles and problems and slipstreams and things that could happen during the chase.
So that the that one chase you from Heavy Rain that you can deliberately
Yeah,
get
just
wrong and turn into a
Sean.
comedy.
Yeah. Um. Of course, we do. Of course, have the oh, we have like a mural. We have like a series of murals as an art thing, which is at the beginning, which is like this world run by geese with the feathered one sort of being this almost godlike dictator. The betrayal, where this like hero called Sir Wallace kills the Goose Hydra and restores peace to the realm, and the prophesied return. The
Brilliant.
feathered one, all these geese, and
Imagine
then
it, like described like some sort of Kingsfield or Dark Souls introduction, but just a load of geese.
the funny thing is that this is quite a low level adventure, and this is designed for like level one PCs. Because the worst thing that you encounter is a challenge rating 4. The feathered one, this huge fey goose hydra, is only challenge rating 4.
I suppose that Don geese aren't that dangerous. That
Yeah.
kind of makes sense.
The interesting thing with this is it's one of its rules is the heads don't regrow. However, if it takes 8 or more damage from a single source, one of its heads fall off, and the head becomes a quackalite. Oh, sorry, the head one does grow 2 new heads. The feather one starts with 3 heads. Wow, so it splits into like some smaller dire geese as you like damage it. So suddenly you're fighting this one 10-headed thing and like 8 geese. Oh. It provides its own ads in an interesting way. Oh, it's even a battle map. There's actually a battle map in here, but it's a square battle map of like the village square. Oh, that is awesome. We also have some magic items. So we have the dagger of Sir Wallace, which deals extra
Right.
radiant damage to Fae and reduces their
Right.
movement speed to 0 until the end of the turn,
Ooh.
until their next turn. So it's either their Fae. The Bell of St. Kylum, of course, is a bell. When rung, every creature that hears the bell ring is imbued with a fearless aura. All such creatures are immune to being charmed or frightened for 1 minute, and they stop being charmed or frightened if they were already. Once rung, the bell cannot be rung until the next dawn. We have the Shield of Stafford. Um, all attacks made by a creature against the wielder after the first on a turn are made with disadvantage. That is incredibly good. So every attack after the first, the enemy has to make the disadvantage. We have an Amulet of
Okay.
Goose Speak. The amulet grants the
That's
wearer
language.
to speak. So it's Sylvan, and all its derivative languages, such as Goose. Goose is a dialect of Sylvan.
Good to know.
Um, we have some Goosebumps, which is a book apparently. Oh, okay. It's apparently in Dwarven, so there's a joke here about the Goosebumps. That's an odd reference. When read aloud, all creatures who can hear and understand the reader gain advantage on wisdom perception checks, but have disadvantage on saving throws against being frightened. These effects last for 4 hours, and the book's effect cannot be used until the next dusk. It just there's fucking I don't know. The dummy returns, and suddenly everyone is good at perception but bad at being frightened.
Sure it's not the beast from the east.
Honkify ring.
Yeah.
A small white metal ring with an intricate design and the impression of feathers wrapped around a band. Once per long rest, an attuned creature can turn themselves and up to 4 willing allies within 30 feet into common geese. Use the Quackerlight stat block for statistics and abilities. A transformed creature automatically
Okay.
reverts to they fall unconscious, drop to 0 hit points, or dies. So they put all dies just in case some clever fucker tries to blink in power word kill or some shit, I guess. So yeah, you could just turn yourself and your team into geese for a bit. And then the last
Okay.
bit
It's
at the
like it's a
back. Oh,
niche
go.
spell,
Yeah,
but
yeah, it's a weird one. I mean, I guess Quackalites, I think they can fly. So, I mean, geese can fly, right? So maybe that's useful. So, oh, we need to get up this cliff. Well, just fly up. Oh, if only I was I wish I were a bird. I wish I could
I wish
fly.
I could fly.
We just turn into a goose. Um, yeah,
Dear.
so I guess it is. Yeah, they've got a fly speed of something. Oh, wait. Oh, maybe they don't have. Wait. Why do they have a fly speed? They're literally geese. No, never
And the
mind.
ground geese.
They're ground geese. Anyway, the last thing in here that doesn't appear in the book but is mentioned in lore of the book is a new player race called Goosefolk.
God.
Um,
Is this for um just this system or this for fifth edition rules as
this is
well?
5th edition specifically.
Oh my god.
These are
Okay.
designed for 5th edition. So I'm going to
Okay.
use this definitely. Um, so they kind of go in the more modern Tasha's style of ASO. So you
Right.
increase one ability score by 2 and another by 1, or increase 3 ability scores by 1. They don't give a specific, okay, it's Dex and, I don't know, Wisdom
Right.
specifically. Because that would, people would complain about that probably. Geese folk have lifespans equivalent to
I
humans.
don't hate that idea. It's fine.
Yeah.
But
Um, Due to their fake connections, goose folk tend towards chaotic alignments. They are size medium, but slightly shorter and lighter than humans. They have a base walking speed of 30 feet and a swimming speed of 30 feet. I guess because they have webbed feet. I guess. You can
they're
read.
semi-aquatic. Yeah.
Yeah, you can speak, read, and write Common and Goose, a dialect of Sylvan. Um, so they get something kind of in the same vein as Dragonborn. So they have Honk. Um, Each creature within 10 feet of you must succeed on a wisdom saving throw, DC 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your charisma modifier, or be frightened by you until the end of your next turn. You cannot use honk again until you finish a short or long rest. Just imagine this goose paladin just honking profanely at some heretic, and he's like, oh. Um, yeah.
Imagine just be very confused to see because you don't understand Goose.
You can flap your feathered arms furiously to hover up to 5 feet off the ground. This cannot be used if already falling. You're incapacitated while flapping and can move at half your walking speed. So you can kind of pseudo fly, but only half your walking speed.
That seems. I don't. That's you can't really complain about that one. That seems deliberately underpowered.
Yeah, it seems like they've looked at like everybody complaining at Aarakocra and like, let's not give this thing a fly speed.
But I kind of don't think it's that big a deal if a race starts with a fly speed
Yeah.
because one thing I learned about the rules for being prone is just because you're flying, you can still be knocked prone.
Yep.
When you put and you know when you're not prone, you fall. So you know, an Aarakocra that's 60 feet up,
Cue Wile E.
risks
Coyote
taking it.
falling noise.
Yeah, yeah. So it's definitely any DMs are annoyed about that. People are abusing the fly mechanic.
Yeah.
Just knock them prone. It is still technically possible using these as rules are written.
Yep. The only thing is, I guess there's not a lot of ranged attacks that necessarily knock creatures prone.
The spells.
Yeah,
And
true.
to fair, you can make that homebrew rule or something,
Like a net arrow or
or
something.
or or a more funny idea. Uh, have flying monsters or flying enemies.
Yeah, that
Because
also works.
the only people that can realistically help in that fight is the one flying player character.
Hmm. But yeah, that was the Tales of the Honk Apocalypse. I will definitely be running that as a one shot at some point because it is funny. It's very Wallace and Gromity kind of humor, and some of the stat blocks, some of the items are actually kind of interesting outside of the vacuum of the one shot. So yes,
Okay.
it's probably one of those like adventures that's probably good for like a preface into something like Wild Beyond the Witchlight because Fey things.
To be fair, the Fae is getting a lot of attention lately to the moment with
Mm.
at least the mainline stuff.
Which is good because we've had a long dry period where the Fae have gotten very little attention.
Yeah, but you can say that about a lot of stuff in D&D.
Mm.
Um, I would have loved a comprehensive guide to all the nine hells. Make that whole series, one book per plane.
Yeah, one book per like
Yeah,
layer.
yeah. Oh god, yeah. Can you imagine how fleshed out that would be as well?
Mm.
It'd make Synthetic Avernus a lot more interesting. You could just do
Yeah.
it as a setting book.
Remember when they used to do setting books?
That was a time. Now that's that third party or indie thing to do with setting books.
Yeah. Right. What do we have for critical fumble this week? Who's in the critical fumbling news this week? Who's been a silly
And,
goober?
who's been a silly goose? Let me think. You know what? You know what? I do. There is someone that comes to mind actually.
Oh?
It's not. You need not that tabletop related. But I've put Russell T Davies this week because there was news interviewed this week about the Doctor Who viewing figures,
Uh-huh.
which they're reluctant to release. And what we know about the previous ones, they're low. So it's like a soft admission that the viewing figures they are getting. And keep in mind, this is from US and UK,
Oh.
and all including streaming. So this is the figures they've had to release, which they often do late,
Mhm.
I've been, based on every way you could potentially watch it,
Yep.
and they're not great. They're definitely they're all below 3 million
Yike.
so far. There hasn't been a single episode so far, I don't think, that has
Yeah.
peaked above 3 million viewing figures.
There are YouTube videos with more views than Doctor Who at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. Having seen bits and pieces from it, and people review it because I like to see what they've done with it since I stopped watching the show. I
Hmm.
can see why the figures are so low. The dialogue's rubbish for a start.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and it's very like some of it comes across as a slightly older man trying to write for a character 20 years younger than he is.
Yeah. A, a lot of the series just
Yeah,
kind of screams of old man screams at cloud kind of ness. It's like, or old man tries to be hip and young with the kids kind of thing. Like, you're so out of touch. Get a new lead writer, like an actual, get some new blood on the fucking writing team. Jeez.
yeah. This the showrunner as well, and the other aspect that a lot of people pick on quickly is that they cast the new doctors. Obviously, the actor's very obviously quite obviously gay from a distance,
Yeah.
and that's become part of the show now. But not in like a way where it's organic, where the Doctor just so happens to be gay this time round, and oh, he's also got these other traits. They really lead with the fact that he's gay.
Yeah.
Like a review of the last episode I read was and watched was so he goes back to like 18th century England, like very high society,
Mm-hmm.
fancy balls and stuff. And most of the episode is spent with like the Doctor falling in love with this literally gay shape shifting alien. And keep in mind he hasn't this character is in this one episode. He's never shown up before or since currently.
Hmm.
So he's just a dude who the Doctor thinks is kind of attractive, and he like unofficially marries the guy in the same episode, and it's like
That's a
what?
little weird.
Yeah, no, it's a bit like there's no yeah. That's yeah. The Doctor seems like very like I don't know how one thing can be too gay. I think they've somehow found a way. And a lot
Yeah.
of people are, and a lot of people, and this is a lot of gay people as well. Going, he's like really really willing to just jump the bones of you know anyone who thinks is remotely attractive, apparently, at the expense of the people he's supposed to be caring about. And it's just, ugh. Yeah, it's just another symptom of how the show's just gone to hell. Really,
Hmm.
I mean, I'll be honest. At this point, I've been watching the show from the sidelines for years because I know how bad it's been getting.
Uh-huh.
And I've just been thinking, it would be a good thing if it were to die, and just get taken off the air for about 5, 10 years. Do it again, reboot it. I mean, it worked the first time. It had a good 10 years with David Tennant and Christopher Eccleston. Just
Hmm.
just let it die, just so it can come back and you know and
Yeah.
hopefully some of the stigma of what's happened will rub off because right now the brand is pretty toxic.
Yeah, we need like a period of just, I don't know, rest the series for a bit. Maybe make something in the same universe, but not the Doctor, and explore new ideas and shit. Or just do new IPs and then come back to us in like 10, 20 years or so.
I mean, I know it's been a while, but I think there's still some goodwill left in Torchwood, maybe
Yeah, maybe.
that could work, or or maybe just leave it to Big Finish again to do unofficial Doctor Who stuff for a bit because that tided people over before.
Yeah. Um,
But, yeah, there's Russell T Davies and Disney as well because they obviously get control over when they view the figures, being a bit sketchy about releasing audience scores, which only makes it only really makes it look worse, to be honest. Because it's by not admitting what the figures are, all you're doing is highlighting how low they might be.
Hmm. Yeah. Um. On the other end of this, I guess the other end of the spectrum. I don't know. Segueing on very unceremoniously, my critical fumble for the week is very much a nitpick. My critical fumble for the week is whoever did the Amazon Fallout show, because I noticed something in there which is a spoiler, but isn't really a spoiler because it's such a minor thing. But there is a deer fawn in the show that appears for all of like maybe 20 seconds, which
Right.
isn't a rad stag fawn. Just a normal,
Well, that is a nitpick,
ordinary,
but that is
unmutated looking deer.
oh,
Which is
well, that is a good
really
point.
strange continuity wise. Like, why is there just this normal ass deer fawn? What?
Uh, Is this a CG? Is this a CGI animal, or was it?
I think it's a CGI
Uh,
animal. I don't get why
okay,
they
so
didn't
right.
make it a rad stag
Yeah,
baby,
I'm
because
gonna
that
say
would
because if they're
be
gonna CG it,
yeah, because that would be something interesting for the player to experience, where like even the wildlife has been altered, like the normal non-dangerous stuff. But there's also like there's chickens that show up at one point again in the background, and I don't think they're rad chickens, although it's hard to tell because the only thing different in the rad chickens is they've got a few tumors, maybe. But still, it's like, look, I get that this is a really small thing, but it's integral
yeah,
to the
that's
show,
yeah,
to
there we
the
go.
to the lore of Fallout, that even the most basic wildlife like chickens and radstag and stags etc has been mutated. You can't just suddenly throw in other unmutated things to be like and hand wave it, because at least the dogs had an explanation and the dogs were made by the Enclave. But where'd
Yeah,
the other shit come from then? Even if they were to say, oh, it was the Institute, show us the Institute or the remnants of the Institute for a scene or two.
that's kind of weird. Why would the Institute make deer?
Well, they made
Weird deer.
gorillas, so they did. In Fallout 4, they were
Got me there.
working on synthetic wildlife, which would explain the
Oh,
other
okay,
things
right.
if it was in the series, if it was in the show. If you had explained, hey, that's why these things are here, that would have worked. But no.
Yeah, it's a tough job with a show like that though, because they're having to really carefully pick and choose which bits of lore they are going to canonize and which they're not.
Yeah.
So at some point they're probably going to get it wrong. Um,
Hmm.
there's then the whole debate of what else will they rope in? Will they rope into stuff like Fallout New Vegas because that's its own set of things?
Yes, yes, they. I won't spoil anything, but yes, New Vegas is Fallout New Vegas is canon, which is,
Okay, so
or at least to an extent. I don't know to what extent,
yeah,
but there are. It seems like some of the stuff from New Vegas has been canonized.
okay, so you might see like tunnelers or the ghost people might show up in the. That'd be interesting. To be
Hmm.
fair, that'd be good live action. I
Yeah,
think.
because I think um there is a scene where there are a couple of people wearing NCR helmets. They're not themselves the NCR, but they have people wearing NCR
Yeah.
helmets and things like that. And there's a few other things that are spoilers. It's like, okay, New Vegas is definitely a thing. The New Vegas stuff is canon.
Okay.
There's also things like, so there's Yao Guai appear in the first episode. That's the other thing with the weird mutant animals not being mutants. Yao Guai are a thing.
Okay, so
You
there are
can't,
mutant animals.
yeah,
They
you and
established that there.
gulpers. So you can't have your cake and eat it too on the mutated animals front. Either that either they're all mutated or they're not. And why don't I know it's a small thing, but it's like,
Eh, but there is always the thing that maybe everyone working on the show is that big a Fallout fan.
yeah.
So they're probably just people. They know the basics. They know like the stuff you put on the posters, but
Mm,
maybe some of the higher ups literally wouldn't know or care what a rad stack is,
yeah. Because
which
the, the
isn't
only the only
which isn't
thing
really a
is
defense
that
for it.
the
But
exact same episode the deer shows up in, the deer is eaten by a gulper. So whoever was working on
time
that scene must have been like, you can't
you
not
got the
know about
show.
these things.
At least removed it from the show very quickly.
Yeah. Oh dear. Anyway, I know it's a small gripe. That's my critical fun of the week. Can the showrunners and writers of the Fallout thing, please do a little. You guys did. They did really well on a lot of other things, and there's some really good small references. Just can you please make sure that you get your basics right before you get your little tiny references right, please.
Yeah,
Anyway, um, skirmish report. So we've been playing Bloodfields this week.
yeah. We tried Bloodfields. Uh, it wasn't a bad time to be honest.
Yeah, it was alright.
Most of the time you were going through rules, which
Yep.
is normal for a new game, but there were a lot of slightly long-winded rules.
Yeah.
What I heard.
Yeah. So some of the rules are, without any offense meant to the creators and all the people who run it, because they were really lovely people we met at UK Games Expo who clearly work for them. This is, I think, some of the rules suffer from English as a second language writing. The literary fluency isn't quite there. So it suffers a bit from very overly long-winded rules that just like you could
Yes.
shorten down quite a bit. And
Uh,
rules
there are
that
there are a
don't
few.
necessarily need to be explained twice or three times that are explained multiple times. Like, you don't, we already know this. Carry on.
There was some stuff, like a few like longer sentences where it would be like just describing how you charge, but it would be an impossible scenario that couldn't happen without any playing piece.
Yeah,
There's stuff like that as well.
yeah. Because it was like the very hard charge only happens as a result of another rule, which is a bit, or another,
Yes.
as another effect going on, and it goes into detail of it, which I guess is okay. But it's like, surely if that's the case, that rule should be explained on the card or ability, not merely in the main rulebook.
I do think there was a little, yeah. The wording was a little strange with some of the rules, and
Yeah,
some of the
and
rules were, I did say a bit redundant. Like they were describing, I think an example. It's well, you think there was something about some rule that was describing if you could charge something, but the situation would be the target's already dead, but you wouldn't have to explain that. It would just be
yeah,
like, well, okay then. Um,
yeah. It was something about. Oh, it was damage, wasn't it? You can't
yes,
deal more
yeah, that's
damage
the
than a
one.
model has. Which, duh.
Yeah, it's a little bit of that.
Um,
But once we actually got playing though, it was
yeah,
actually a really smooth ride.
yeah, and
Um,
the formatting of the rulebook was a bit iffy as well, which is not helped by the fact that it doesn't have a physical copy of the rulebook. So you're having to constantly sort of turn your phone on, find the page, look at it again, scramble to find the rulings.
yeah, I will
Um,
say their
yeah.
their website though is very good though.
Yes.
If you want to actually start playing,
Yeah.
so you can like literally scan the back of the box and you can get links to the
Yeah.
rules, links to if you want to get to the STLs for all the models,
Hmm.
all the factions. It's all there on like one page. So in that regard, it's really quick and really accessible.
Mm.
So they've done a bang up job there.
One thing I will say, if you guys want to try and play it, for your first games, don't worry about the scenarios. Don't bother looking into the scenario book at first. Just do a team deathmatch because the scenario book is a
Did you find the
separate
scenario book?
book. I did. It is on their website. It's just you. In order to
Okay,
like, because then you'd have to flip back to one rule book, go back,
right.
go to a link, go to the scenario book, and do all of that. I figured, let's not overcomplicate things to begin with. Um, but there are scenarios. There
Yeah,
are
we
quite a lot of them, and they are interesting. It's just, I think, combined with the main rulebook, it's a bit much for your first game.
yeah, we ran it as a just a bit of a beat 'em up, just to get used to how the rules might work.
Hmm.
And I will say there wasn't much the way the charge rules work. There's not a lot of the Games Workshop problem of you shuffling your armies about
Hmm.
before you do anything. We were on like turn two and already in combat.
Yeah. Um.
So it's quite a fast-paced game.
Yeah. Another thing I think they need to clarify is if some of the condition debuff effects last indefinitely, because
Oh,
blind
yeah,
was
blind.
overpowered. I think. I think.
Yes.
I think having a condition be permanently on a creature with no ability to like roll to get rid of it or whatever is bit a bit busted because it is not that difficult with the spells that do those things, to be able to do those
Oh no,
things,
it's
to
quite easy to
invoke
inflict.
though. Yeah, it's very easy to inflict, almost impossible to remove. The only one that you could remove was the damage over time, the dots, which is weird. It's like, why is there a
Oh
rule for
yes.
being able to remove dots and not anything else?
Well, weakness as well was a fun one I experimented with a bit.
Yes.
Not quite as dangerous, but it was
No.
that could if you're really gamey with it. So basically, it just made you it made you roll less dice,
No,
which or no,
it
reduce your
reduces your
melee
combat,
mastery, wasn't it?
your melee combat mastery, which reduces the effectiveness of if you roll combat mastery on your dice. Which, by the way, Bloodfields has its own unique dice system. It is D6, but some of the D6 are unique to the game, which is kind of cool. I won't go into all the rules of them or
It,
different sides, but it's interesting. It's an interesting. It's a unique take,
no,
I
it's good.
think, on the Warhammer
It,
style of combat.
it kind of played out a bit like a combination of Warhammer Underworlds
Mm.
and the Games Workshop Lord of the Rings game. Like with the
Ah.
mastery was sort of like how the fight stat works in Lord of the Rings, the Middle Earth game,
Mm.
because every model has a fight value,
Yeah.
but it ultimately boils down to highest roll wins. So what was the rule? If your like mastery was four or more,
Mm.
your was it the was it it's basically the way the word for attacking. You rolled you rolled all the attack dice, and there were some for hits, some for um obviously blank for nothing.
Yeah.
Inspiration, which are very important. You can if you give a model an inspiration token, you can flip it, and all inspiration on that attack is turned into a hit.
Mm.
Um, but then what was the ruling where regarding if your mastery was like with like less than four
So if
and your
your
the target
if your
target four,
mastery
that's
is
quite
three or
interesting.
less, I think it was if your
Yeah,
mastery is three or less, they all turn into misses. If it's four, one
yeah,
turns into a hit, and if it's five plus, they all turn into hits. I think.
yes. That's didn't come up a lot, but it came enough to be like, oh, okay, that's kind of
It
interesting.
did come up quite a bit because there
Um,
was that one character Hugo who reduces the mastery of creatures in combat
hmm,
against them, which basically because it was low power units, wiped out any semblance of the enemy team really doing a whole lot with their mastery rolls.
yes. Um, there was some weird dice stuff with the charge rolls as well.
Hmm.
Like they were very particular about wands, which I did
Yeah.
notice. You have to roll to do a charge.
Yeah.
There were two types:
Hard.
easy and hard. So basically, easy charge was it with no obstruction in the way.
Hmm.
I
If it's a
wasn't
straight
entirely
line,
sure
yeah.
if that counted friendly. I'm not sure if that counted friendly units because I
Yeah.
would count friendly units as still in the way. Um, and hard, obviously, there were rules. Basically, you roll for it, but if you roll a one, the charge doesn't work.
Yeah, so if it was on an easy charge, if you roll double ones, the charge fails. If it's a
Yeah,
hard
there we are.
charge, if you roll any ones, the charge fails. And then
So,
very
yeah, that's
hard,
I don't.
which is
Uh,
only treated by effect,
yeah.
is a one or a two on either dice. It's a fail. But that didn't come up at all during the game.
Yeah, but there's quite a lot of the rules didn't come up, in at least when we played it. I mean, maybe we did a few things wrong. Um, but once the game actually got going, it was actually really quite a quick game.
Hmm.
Well, I do like how the turns are really good, um, because it's sort of like a lot of other skirmish games I've picked up lately. Where you activate one figure at a time.
Yeah.
So one figure at a time, and then it swaps sides. Um, there wasn't like a massive advantage necessary because at the start of the game, you either start with the inspiration
Initiative
token,
token, yeah. Or
initiative
you
token. There we are. Yeah,
choose what side of the
um,
board to set up on.
yeah. So there's even so if you don't go first, you still get some control over how the first turn's going to go.
Hmm.
A lot of games I haven't seen do that, so
Yeah.
that's
The,
really
the
that's
the
really thoughtful.
the latter definitely matters probably more in some scenarios where the map
Yes.
wasn't isn't symmetrical or asymmetrical,
Yeah, but
whatever,
the
you know.
initiative token did importantly just it kept switching sides. So if you play the game long enough, okay, any more than two turns, you at least get one chance to use the initiative token to say, right, I'm going first,
Yeah.
or you can opt not to.
I think we mostly took the first turn most of the time with initiative token, but there's definitely something to be said for there's
Yes.
definitely some turns or some armies perhaps where going second is more beneficial. And keeping a hold of the initiative token for tactical use might actually be a good idea.
Mm. I think with the starter box, there's four miniatures apiece.
Yeah.
So it didn't happen at all because it past the halfway point of the game, there was little to no reason not to take initiative.
Mm.
So we pretty much always took it if we had the chance to. I will say though, if you got if you're gonna pick it up, um, both factions once you read the rules, they're not that complicated.
Yeah.
But I had a lot more fun with because it's like there's basically beastmen and inquisitors for this
Mm.
starter box you picked up.
Yeah.
Um, the beastmen was a really good introductory team
Mm.
because there is no spells, no difficult bits. The whole team works on the basis of charging things,
Yeah.
making charges easier or better.
Mm.
So, from a beginner's point of view, fantastic team to learn the rules with.
Yeah. And the Inquisitor team is probably good for like your second and third game sort of onwards because that teaches you how spells work, how some of the other, I mean, you had weakness, how some of the status effect works like dots and blind, how synergy works between units. Um, and more sort of control based play rather than aggressive. So like the Inquisitor's definitely more control army of okay, I'll heal my unit, I'll make them better in combat, or I will make this unit not be able to move. Things like that. Real battlefield control type stuff.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, blind was horrific. So the short of it is you have to roll a DC to make the ability work.
Mm-hmm.
If it does, It didn't. So because it didn't say when if it ended, we treat it like the whole game.
Yeah,
And while they're blinded, if they roll a blank, they just hit themselves.
yeah. Which
Which
combined with
yeah, which is
Hugo's ability to basically negate weapon mastery is
a great misses.
devastating.
Yeah, so it will be interesting if you get the follow up and the official material
Yeah.
to see if that stays the same or if they add a duration on that.
Yeah. So yeah, that was Bloodfields. I do recommend it.
Yeah,
Largely on it just being a good miniatures box. Because I think Bloodfields characters, the character designs for their miniatures look really good. So they're definitely the kind of thing you could do for war games and for tabletop RPGs, I think,
yeah,
because they're all different. It's not like, oh, I'm buying an army or I'm buying a unit of scale, etc. I'm only to use sort of two or three of them. Each miniature looks very unique from each other.
yeah. They've gone for like a an archetype for the factions,
Hmm.
which isn't like a every model looks the same. They all sort of fit a
Theme.
general thing. Yeah. I will say though, we didn't figure out how to base the rogue. You're about to file the leg of that
Yeah, I'm gonna
that
have to get
rogue
a
down.
file on that or something. So,
It might be different boxes, but it
yeah.
the cat rogue is doing the classic jumping up in the air thing. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and the little peg didn't quite fit exactly.
Which
But
is
apart from
fine.
that, the models work kind of
Yeah,
fantastic.
the models are
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
They
it's a
look
small
fantastic.
problem.
Explorers Guild, do we have any locations you want to specifically talk about this week? Homebrew, 5th edition, or otherwise?
Yes, I do. That's a one ruled. I found some interesting ones. A lot of them is a 3.5, which is quite interesting. It
Ooh.
depends how cruel you want to be about it. Um, so in three and it's three D&D 3.5. Uh, of all things, you can provoke opportunity attacks by standing up.
Oh.
Yeah. Um, so that's I know certain DMs that would absolutely love to use that rule. Um, I think for certain settings, I kind of like that. But
Mm.
that's the kind of game you have to set up and establish. That this game isn't going to be naturally upbeat and sunshine and rainbows. If you set that up right, I think players can learn to live with it and use it in their favor. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that'd be the solution for integrating it. I kind of don't hate the rule though, because from a if you want a bit of realism, I see where it's coming from. I mean, if for some reason I'm in a fight with someone and I've managed to knock them over, they try and get up. I'm gonna prevent that from happening.
Yeah,
Why
you're
would
gonna
I?
like
Why would I
bonk
let
them
that
back
happen?
down again. Like, stay down.
Yeah. Why did I get away with that?
Hmm.
I think that's a really neat little rule. Um, there's a few others that are really 3.5 has a few that are quite nice. Uh, where's it at? Wait for it. Oh, there we are. Yes. There's damage reduction as well. Again for more realistic style games. Um, so damage for them. Right. So it's basically an amount of like flat damage that will be reduced, depending on so it's all like a contextual damage reduction.
Hmm.
So if for some reason something you're fighting is naturally armored but not resistant to stuff, it might have some sort of damage reduction just because it's that much harder to knock down and deal with. Yeah, I quite like if you like your combat a bit more immersive.
Hmm. Um. Yeah. trying to think. I don't have any sort of ruling things that I could think of this week, but um, yeah, I got nothing this week, unfortunately, because I've been focusing
That's all right.
lately on new books and things. So eventually, I might be like, I haven't, because like I haven't looked at any old stuff lately. I've got mostly new stuff at present. But in
That's all
terms
right.
of world building stuff, Magic's brought out the Modern Horizon 3 set, which has
Hmm?
brought us back. Well, Modern Horizon tends to have to look at a lot of different places, but it's like a greatest hits of worlds. And we've had a bunch more of the creatures called Eldrazi, which are effectively
Okay.
Cthulhuian monsters. And so I'm reminded of the plane of Innistrad, which is very ghosts and goblins, ghosts and ghoulies kind of place. Very Call of Cthulhu esque world, mixed with I guess sort of what do you call it? B movie horror, I guess, kind of tropes. So you got your werewolf, you've got your
Yeah.
mad scientists, your zombies, but also just angels that straight up go absolutely batshit crazy and start just killing their own worshippers. And that happens, I
Boring.
think, kind of before the Eldrazi make themselves known, which is kind of scary. Your classic sort of cult tropes of and madness and Cthulhian. Yeah. And the Eldrazi, I think, are a unique way of having Cthulhuian stuff without it being Cthulhu. Like, you can definitely sort of tell that Emrakul is very flying spaghetti monster Cthulhu themed. But then you've got like
Yeah.
Ulamog, who's just tall. He's just a big, slender man like faceless guy, and Kozilek is just I I guess Eldritch Vishnu is what I guess I'd say. Multi-armed kind of magician-looking
Yeah.
guy with an orb for a head. Yeah, and the fact that they turn the worlds they go to in this kind of geometric, colorful, metallic-looking wasteland is really interesting, and I'd love to go back to Innistrad in a D&D type setting, because the last time they did Innistrad, I think, was 3.5 Planescape, and we haven't really been. I'd like
Oh, that
them,
that explains a
yeah,
lot.
I'd like them to either do new books in those places because they're some of Magic's better planes, in my opinion, or what they could do is just quote unquote remaster them, so bring them forward into fifth edition and just update the rulings and power levels and things, which I feel like for like Wizards should be something they should be doing just on a money perspective, because it wouldn't take that much effort to realistically to update the rules a bit, because you
Yeah.
don't need to do new art, you don't need to do new monsters, new mechanics, you barely have to do new mechanics, you or like because all you have to really do is just convert it, which for a team should not be that hard.
Yeah. I mean, they have just done Planescape as well and
Yeah,
re-released it. It would be a stretch for them to just expand on that.
yeah. Anyway, that's our Explorers Guild slash um
Do we have any
ruling.
any homebrew this week?
Ah,
Because we had
yes.
our
So I
yeah,
forgot it this. I forgot to add it last
no
week,
we
but
oh, we did the expo last week though, so it's
yes.
fine.
Um, I do have something I made for last week, but forgot to talk about.
Don't worry, I've got something a bit silly this time round.
So do
Which
I actually.
oh, that's convenient.
So it's called the Omni Clown Colossus. And speaking of Magic, it is actually based on a Magic the Gathering card, specifically one I got an artist's proof of at the convention. Hence the
Oh,
hence it being designed for last week, but I just forgot about it. So of course it's a
Okay.
gargantuan aberration construct because I figured clowns are aberrations, right?
Depending on what type of clown, yeah.
Um, 18 AC. I didn't want to give it really high AC. 50 feet of movement, 700 health. So it is a because it's a big boy. It should be able to take some hits. I figured like giving it lower AC than a big boy would normally have, but higher health would make it a bit more interesting. Because at least then you're actually hitting it and slowly dealing damage to it. 25 strength, 15 dex, 24 con, which is a lot less than the because I based this loosely off the Warforged Colossus from Eberron.
Right.
1 int, 8
Okay.
whiz, 14 charisma because clown. Its saving throws are in dex and charisma. Your standard damage immunities: necrotic, poison, bludgeoning, piercing, slashing from non-magical attacks. Immune to being charmed, exhaustion, incapacitated, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, and stunned. True sight 100 feet, which is actually something that's on the big other Colossus, but I've lowered it here. Pass perception 9. It speaks common and deep speech because it's an aberration. Challenge rating 25. So again, don't throw this at your players unless either it's very late game or they're in like vehicles or something, like in the Avernus setting. If they've got some like heavy ordnance. Of course, it has affinity for clowns. So its initiative bonus and
Makes sense.
dexterity increase by 1 for each clown, robotic, aberrant, or otherwise within a mile of it. So affinity for clowns is a mechanic from the card that I kind of translated into kind of a lair ability type thing.
Right.
It obviously has siege monsters, so it deals extra double damage to objects and structures because it's a massive robot. And its other feature is induced coulrophobia. And yes, I did have to Google what the phobia of clowns is called.
But, but
Uh,
but does this only work if the victim has a phobia of clowns?
well, that's why it's called induced. So, a creature seeing it for this Omniclown Colossus for the first time must make it succeed on a DC 26, so very high, Wisdom saving throw, or be frightened of all clowns until the save is succeeded. On a subsequent turn, if the saving throw is not successful in a minute, the creature basically becomes traumatized. You do madness points if madness is a thing in your game, and develops a permanent phobia of clowns. Because I thought that would be funny.
Okay.
Because I figured that would be an interesting bit of like character building. Uh, giving, oh no, your barbarian is afraid of clowns now. So I'm gonna deal with
Which
that.
isn't that bad, really.
Yeah, no. It
I
might come
mean,
up like once or twice in a game,
yeah.
but like it'd only ever be funny, I feel like.
Yeah, it's a
Uh
very specific circumstance where you find a lot of clowns.
so it has multi-attack, so it makes up to 4
Yep.
attacks, 3 with its slam and sorry, up to 3 with its slam and 1 with its pyroclasm. Slam must hit a
Oh,
different creature each time up to the maximum. So if it can't hit 3 creatures, it won't use it 3 times basically. But the chances are, given
okay.
how big it is, it can probably hit 3 creatures with it. Probably. It's just a case of to try and
Okay.
balance it in case, I don't know, the rest
Yeah.
near enough the rest of the party is wiped out and you're not suddenly going to get ganked by a guy making 4 attacks on you in a row.
Yeah, that seems balanced enough.
Um, Slime is a 12 plus 12 to hit, reach 20 feet purely because it's a gargantuan creature. 3d12 plus 10 bludgeoning. This is near enough, 1 for 1, the one from the Warforged Colossus. And the Colossus can push the target up to 20 feet away from it. Pyroclasm is an AoE. So it's
Right.
a AoE of 20 feet centered around the creature itself, so quite a big radius when you consider the size of the creature. It's only it's a DC, it's a dexterity saving throw of 15 plus the affinity for clowns number.
Okay.
Um, it does 4d8 fire damage, halved on a success, and if the creature is targets a creature, it's knocked prone. And then it does have a recharge attack called Flower of Death, which is similar to um the I keep forgetting Warforged Colossus's like Death Ray. So it fires a beam of high pressure water in a 150-foot line that is 10 foot wide. Each creature in line must make a DC 26 saving throw, taking 11d10 force damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful one. That's the same damage
Right.
numbers as the other Colossus from Eberron. A creature sized huge or smaller, reduced to 0 hit points by this beam, is blown away in the beam's trajectory. So, kind of, you know, like they're knocked with the water effectively, which which means they would be placed at the end of that line, possibly a little bit further. Just makes it a little more annoying to get a hold of the corpse, basically, for like healing and stuff. Um, and again, funny if they get like yeeted off a cliff by it. Creatures not reduced to
I
0
think
hit points and
yeah.
didn't pass the saving throw are knocked prone. So if you didn't pass the save but you're not dead or dying, you're knocked prone, which makes sense. High pressure water.
I think that should be a reaction to the flower being hit.
Yeah.
That
Smell my flower.
you actually have to hit it to trigger it, though. That'd be quite funny.
Yeah. And I might change that to something like that if they accidentally hit the flower like something. So the bestiary entry, which is going by the magic law, a
Yeah,
strange, abominable robot built by Myra the Magnificent Intergalactic Astratorium of Fun. Yes, that's a real company in the magic world
I
now.
believe that. That's
Um,
very wizards.
by their artificer Pietra McGiggles. Yes, that's a real name. The Omniclown Colossus is fun for the whole family, and that family, and the family down the road, and the family whose home was stomped on down the street. Approach with caution. Actually, don't approach them under any circumstances, even if you yourself are a clown. Thankfully, very few of these hulking monstrosities were ever made, but those that malfunction are often dumped on any old planet or plane as the interdimensional intergalactic circus makes its journey across reality. Even in a state of disrepair and abandonment, these archetypal giant robots are a force to be reckoned with. On a good day, they can go toe to toe with a Tarrasque and win, though this requires their lair phenomena to be in full swing. Their strange boost in speed when other clowns are nearby. One such report from formerly redacted Astrotorium files recounts an incident where one Colossus was left on a planet of carnivorous clown humanoids. The Omni Clown Colossus went berserk with power and effectively glassed the whole planet, leaving naught but a stomped on wasteland covered in perfume smelling water features and still burning cream pies.
Hmm.
Um, that last bit is a vague reference to Planet of the Killer Clowns as well.
Okay.
I'm
I
just
was
in
going to
that.
say, have you ever seen Killer Clowns from Outer
That's
Space?
yeah, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. That's the one I was referring to. It's like, what? I was like trying to think, what planet would be full of clowns? Well, obviously the Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Obviously,
Which are not, in fact, clowns, they are aliens.
yeah,
Because that movie is weird. I love it.
very
They've got a
strange.
game now. It's got
Really
a game now, which is, yes,
nice.
that's a thing. Um, right. I
Closing.
have written up.
Oh yeah,
Sorry, Karen.
you've got no, you got to think right.
Yes. Oh God, I've written up one of my. It's one that's not original. Uh, I wanted to do a stat block for one of my favorite monsters in any franchise ever.
Mhm.
Um, so I picked him from one of the older Monster Hunter games. There was a thing called a Congalala. I've dropped it in the pics and videos
Mhm.
of what this thing looks like. It's ridiculous. It's a giant pink fluffy baboon with a fat belly and it eats mushrooms. It's a
Oh,
really short. Yeah,
oh. Also, that's a really good
it's
costume
really
for them as well.
it's really aggressive, and it's really aggressive, and it moves in a really funny way. I just kind of love it. It's a weird monster from early Monster Hunter. Um, yeah, I had to put that video up there because yeah, just like I don't know how they programmed that costume to fart,
See, yeah,
but
I just saw it. I was
that's
like,
the
wait a
thing.
minute, what?
Yeah, one of its attacks actually is farting. It's yeah, it's a ridiculous pink giant baboon monster that eats mushrooms, but
Uh,
they actually have an effect for that. Um, so I wrote up as a CR5
yeah.
because it's got to be a boss monster. Um, gave it 80 hit points, but 45 feet. So it's kind of fast.
Hmm.
Um, it gave it multi attack, but it makes two. So this is based on the games, so it makes two claw attacks, and
Hmm.
it has to make one flop attack afterwards.
Flop.
Oh, yeah, so um, basically, it's sort of like slam, but once it's done, it knocks itself prone,
Hmm.
which is
Oh.
basically that's literally yeah, that's literally one of its attacks. So it literally throws itself so far, like so fast on the ground.
Hmm.
It sort of works like a slam, but it knocks itself prone because it moves really weirdly. Um, of course, it made a DC strength save fart attack, because that's kind of one of the sillier features of it. Um, like it gave it a new property, stench. Um,
Hmm.
obviously, when you're farted on, it's obviously you smell of it. You basically you reek of it.
Yeah.
Um, which means that any perception or investigation check that uses smell has advantage to detect you because you now stink.
That makes
Um,
sense.
just to wait, yeah, because I couldn't not do the Congolala justice without including the fart. It was just too perfect. Um, the other thing, weird thing it does. This is a thing it does in game as well. Is it it does occasionally eat mushrooms, but the type of mushroom it eats weirdly gives it a breath weapon.
Oh.
So yeah, that's just a thing they put into the game, which kind of is really funny. Um, so at the start of the encounter, you can either roll randomly or decide which kind of mushroom it's eaten to
Uh
give it
huh.
either fire breath or um, sleep breath, which is always 30 foot by 10 foot line.
Hmm.
So it can either
Spicy
this
mushrooms.
rechargeability. Yeah, that's actually a thing they put in the Monster Hunter games. Um, it's just a really weird monster that I've always found hilarious, and it hasn't made a return appearance in the more recent ones. Which I think is kind of a shame because the way it moves is utterly ridiculous. Um, I just kind of had to do something doing a little bit silly, and really just do it justice because it's just only Monster Hunter could have a game about hunting serious dragons and wyverns and stuff, and include a giant pink baboon that attacks by farting on you sometimes.
Yeah.
It's so wonderfully it's so wonderfully done. I kind of love it.
It's very Capcom of them.
Oh yeah, it just looks daft. Um, yeah, so that's one contribution this week.
Hey. Well, thank you for that. All contributions that we talk about on this show will be in the Discord. So join the Discord if you want to get a copy of any of those homebrews. We'll eventually put them somewhere else, but right now it's all on the Discord specifically. So have fun with those things. And if you do wind up using any of those things in your games, please let us know how it went.
Yeah, that would be an interesting playtest.
Um, closing thoughts.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
we've had a lot of extra content lately. I think we've been on a bit of a roll.
Yeah, I think
Um,
I think going to UK Games Expo is exactly what we needed, to be
yeah,
honest, to
we
restock on things to talk about.
yeah. And you were mentioning doing the cyberpunk version of Bloodfields as well, weren't you?
Yes,
Soonish.
Grid Wars. So,
Grid Wars, there's one.
yeah, we will probably be talking about that uh 3 weeks from now. Yeah, 3 weeks from now. So, um the start of July. Wait. Yeah. Yeah, so
That
the
checks out.
7th of July. If you want to hear about Grid Wars, tune your pit boys to Byzantian brewscast.
Uh, Thanks for listening to us, and have a lovely new week.
Yeah. Um, no raid this week. We're just gonna go straight to ending. If you want to raid somebody or poke somebody to say hello from the goose, you can do. And we'll see you guys soon. Oh, I gotta drink some stuff. Thanks, Drew.